Order. Next item of business is election of a chair.
I nominate Tracy Hare.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Questions? All's in favor? Opposed?
Abstain. Am I supposed to abstain?
You can vote however you'd
I'm
like.
in favor.
All right.
If you disagree with yourself,
I don't.
then
Okay, roll call. Let's see. Councilor Rankin,
here.
Councilor Eastman,
Here.
Councilor Fair. Skate park location discussion.
You guys want us to come up, or do you have?
Come
Yes,
on,
please.
yes, please.
Ideally.
Great.
What we learned is we have a new sound system, but
Yeah.
it doesn't hear you if you're sitting in the audience, so that people at home don't have to listen to the
Chatter of the audience.
chatter of the audience. But they
Gotcha.
can hear from this podium.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't know how much information you need, but I guess I'll just kind of start from the beginning. We're at a process with the skate park where in 2024, towards the beginning of the year, we were the recipients of 2 grants totaling at $20,000 to put towards the cost of site evaluation and design work with concrete park builders. A more permanent park, replacing the current wooden structures, which were just a beta test or temporary to see how things are going. At this point, we have met with 3 concrete park builders, and quite honestly, when we go to them and say, we have a location currently where the park is, but it's, kind of a test run, and then there's also a possibility of looking at other locations around the town. Most of them are replying with, we need to know where it's going to be. And I think that's really what's going to separate our committee and our discussions with them from, 13-year-olds across America that are talking to skate park builders and saying, we want a park. They're getting those calls daily. So in multiple conversations with Sue through email, we realized that we're going to have to go through the bid process or RFP. I believe what kind of triggered this conversation tonight was I spoke to the Parks and Rec Department in Bangor. They have a concrete park that was built maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I said, hey, can I see your RFP? So I'm not sure if it was sent around to you guys or not. I do have a couple copies just because my printer was not functioning well. If you need them, there's some other stuff there. You can pass them around.
Oh, we do have these.
You do? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, ultimately, all that I did was I just replaced Bangor with Bucksport, added some of our own stipulations. More or less, I think, if I can speak personally, just from my own experience, I wanted to kind of see what these things look like. So sent that off to Sue and was just like, hey, this is where we're at. We want to spend these grant dollars and get the process started now that we've spoken with a few builders. And just get the process started. So we're here tonight hoping to nail down a permanent location for the park and the future build. What I did attach to those, which I did not give to you beforehand, are some photos of some park builds. And just so you can understand that this concrete construction, we're digging into the ground. It's permanent. I don't mean to sound silly saying that, but if you're not familiar with a skate park, that's what it looks like. And we are here requesting that we're able to proceed speaking to builders and calling the current location the home of the future skate park up at Ian's Playground on Elm Street.
We do, yeah, that's the only site, right? I mean, there's never been any other site really designated.
So, the only other consideration was up at the ice skating rink. And I guess my only interjection into that for your consideration is, any respectable concrete builder is, when they build a structure, they're gonna look at 2 things, elevation and drainage. Where we currently reside at Ian's Playground, we're on a slight elevation with a pitched hill going down to the road, and so you can easily connect to the town's rainwater runoff.
Mhm.
I'm not super familiar with.
Where the infrastructure is up there.
You know, up at the ice skating rink. I do know that it's commonly wet.
Yeah.
And obviously with any building, you can make anything happen, but that's complex, and with any complexity comes cost.
Yep.
And you gotta run that water off somewhere. And especially with a concave concrete structure, like a bowl, if you don't know what a bowl is, you know, it's kinda like a pool. Pools gather water, but you don't want that water there.
Sure.
So that water has to go somewhere. So our current location, it's simplified, and with simplicity comes cutting costs. And no matter what, the whole thing is going to be costly, but that can at least be something that, you know, we can take a little bit of money off of to make it easier.
The other issue that was discussed in regard to this was that the desire was for this park to be in a very visible, very easily accessible location, both for use and for oversight, to be honest. And that's not a negative, that's like the playgrounds, or, you know, our facilities are in places that are well monitored,
Correct.
et cetera, et cetera.
And there's actually pre-existing surveillance there, you know, it just
Right.
seems like.
There is now.
Right, there is
wasn't.
now. I mapped it before I got here, 0.2 miles. I mean, we all know it's right at the top of Elm Street, but 0.2 miles compared to 1.1. Also just visibility from neighbors and the road and everything.
Well,
If it was out at the ice rink, you know, whether it's a skate park or whether the ice rink was extremely active year round, you know, you're not as visible, there might be trouble.
well,
This also gives access to people who don't have a transportation,
And as a
besides their skateboard,
Right.
obviously.
And as a
Right.
previous young punk myself, I know that the ice skating rink is very close to the school. But the last thing you want to do at the end of the day is stay right next to your school. You want to go off, you want to go do things with your friends.
Sure.
Being right next to school, you know, it's I don't know, again, it just seems like you get to travel somewhere, you go from school to the skate park that you love, and it's an adventure, so.
My big thing is, I know we have no plans of this right now, but if we do a sports complex up by Miles Lane, which I'm severely gonna push for.
Right.
At some point, I know it's in the future, that gives even so much more room to expand a skate park. And then it's gonna be, right now, it's gonna be tight, I get it. But if that happens, that would be a beautiful spot.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think that is the best spot for it. But I don't know how much could be developed and still play baseball there easily.
To answer that sort of, obviously we don't know until the builder comes out and tells us this is possible or this is not. Given the population of Bucksport, given the current skill set of the typical user using the skate park, we would be looking at probably a smaller construction, I think, is what our
What's
committee would be
existing?
leaning, well, not smaller in footprint. I think that footprint we're gonna use, definitely. But what I mean by smaller is the complexity of the skate park is gonna have smaller features most likely. You know, it's not, we aren't necessarily at this point thinking of major expansion beyond the current footprint plus you know, hopefully the batting cages if that stuff moves, kind of that grassy area. And if that stuff does move up and we're talking about, you know, a facility that might turn into a green space or might turn into a outdoor fitness gym for seniors, et cetera. You know, I've played around with it in my mind a little bit, and I think the current location is pretty solid. It's off on the edge and opportunity for a walking path between the playground and the skate park to get to whatever we end up doing over there. Or if it's just the ball field still.
So as far as timeline goes, so Derek, like if
Yeah.
I don't think moving the complex would happen prior to you needing the skate park. So is there like a
Right.
retrofit in the meantime while those batting cages are still there and in function?
Yeah, so I guess that's a discussion that we'd have to have, and I guess I don't quite know the answer because it was something this size. I do love phases and projects, and I do respect that process. But I have a feeling that our builders are going to look at the footprint and say, this is phase one and done, unless you want to go on to a phase two.
My personal opinion would be, with the expense of concrete, and the expense of contracting the builder, you want at least somewhat of a permanent footing
Mhm.
that you're gonna go with. The batting cages, I know that that's gonna be reconstructed at some point, but if we're gonna put this money in there and actually hire a builder, I would recommend to be at least, I call it the L.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking at the fences, you have a skate park currently, you have batting cages, and you have this little grassy kind of area next to it along the fence. That is a
Between, like down by the swings.
Yeah.
going
that way.
going towards the stairs and all that, next to the offices there.
Or down into the
Oh.
corner of that fencing and
little
stuff.
bit, yeah.
So you
A little.
have
The
boards-
elevation.
Is that where you had the boards hung up?
Yeah,
Yes.
that back fence that sits on top of that retaining wall.
Yep.
Um,
And again, that would be your proper drainage. That's literally where you would pitch drainage downhill.
So I was somewhere recently, it might have been Belfast,
Mhm.
but they have a really small, somewhere, they have a really small footprint concrete concrete skate park.
might have,
But I think they can do them.
they can, yeah.
And so with with any kind of skate park, the first thing you want to look at is flow. You have kind of like almost little areas that have different experience levels. You have experienced skate park people, boom, you got them there. They're going to be in a bowl, they're going to be doing complex things. You have an area where like kind of the people who are practicing can hone their skills, and then you have an area where, maybe the little ones or the people who are just learning, just getting on a skateboard can have space to move around and kind of get the feel of that. And that little L shape there, as small as it may be, that actually is the flowable area to be able to create 3 different spaces, at least I believe. And you can expand from that. But again, if you're going to put the money in and you're going to make this happen, you want to make sure that it's not, not something that you're going to immediately pump more money into the reason, the minute you realize you need a little bit more space. So.
And Tracy, Belfast has a wooden park that's tucked off of Main Street. I'm wondering if you were.
I thought they'd replaced it with concrete.
Oh, maybe
Have
they
you
have
been
at
there
this
in the last
point.
year?
Yeah, I have been there in the last
So it
year.
mustn't have been Belfast.
Were you in
Somewhere
Bar Harbor
recent.
recently? That one sticks
Yes,
out
it
to
was
me.
Bar Harbor.
It's right
Yeah.
beside the YMCA. Again, like right
It's really
in the
tucked
heart.
in,
It's really
kinda
tucked
tight.
in. So you can fit these. There's actually one skate park builder that we're not talking to. But their name is Fifth Pocket, which I think has maybe something to do with pool, but also the fact that they just build these tiny parks, like
Yeah.
just little pockets wherever they can find. So we're going to be dealing with experienced and creative contractors that have worked on giant places and small places.
Yeah. And I will say, like, independently skating Bar Harbors, their skate park is good, but it does become congested very quickly. So again, that little area where new skaters can come in and practice doesn't fully exist. So just for consideration.
Okay, so, so sorry, Paul.
No.
So your idea, I was thinking you were gonna spin the batting cage, but your idea would be the park would be the L,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe where you are now, we could configure some sort of,
Yeah, are you guys seeing the L right now, or is it hard to see?
Hard to envision. Maybe we should get it on here. Richard,
Can,
bring
Here
this
can
up.
we?
Rich.
Okay, cool. I should have drawn this out.
I'm just
So-
thinking of the building I was face up against many lunchtimes, cause I was,
Quick question while Rich is.
Yeah.
What's the anticipated funding for this?
So at this point, we do have the funds to pay for this next step, right? Once we are through this next step, that's gonna produce 3D renderings, blueprints, like everything that you need to go. At that point, the committee is gonna start fundraising, writing grants. Everyone throws out the organization Tony Hawk Foundation, which is now the skate park project. That's like the pie in the sky. They could come in and write you a check and the thing would be built, but realistically, a lot of people are going for that. We might not get that. So what this process is gonna do is gonna give us a price tag, because right now we have no idea
more
what
of
it's
an
gonna
estimate.
cost, what it's gonna look like, so we can't really ask. And you know, I'm also not gonna stand here and say that that's all we're gonna do. You know, part of our fundraising process would be looking around us and probably coming to the town again to say, you know, we've secured a grant for X amount of dollars. Is there any room for the town to get involved in this? And I know those are discussions in the future. And also, for example, the skate park in Bar Harbor took 10 plus years to come to fruition. When I was in high school living in Ellsworth, our skate park was kind of launched in thanks to support from the Downey's Family YMCA, but even that took a year and a half. This is not instant, and we definitely are going to have to do some work.
Thank you.
And it's a big investment. You want it done right.
Right.
Well, and then again, it's permanency. You know, as long as the town of Bucksport wants a skate park, I mean, this will be a permanent skate park. When it comes to concrete, as most of us know, there's usually very little maintenance that comes along with that. You know, I mean, it takes 10 years for it to even need a little bit of patch or mortar or anything.
Does that get a sealer, like a tennis court type, you know, of any type?
I'm sure it would.
has a
I
point.
can't
Use your
actively-
pointer, Rick.
It's in there.
I can't actively say that, but I'm, you know, these guys are good. This is all they do.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what they
believe
do.
it's like a sealer. I think it's the mix that they use, if that makes sense. You know, like it's like the equivalent of pressure treated wood,
Thanks, Rick.
putting that outside. You know,
Alright, here we
so
go.
the way that we envision the L, like what we're asking for, and again, you know, we're asking for something that's being used right now, so this might take some consideration. But ultimately, the current footprint that we're in, the pavement patch, really would be very, very small, too small. We originally had requested from the council and everybody involved this grass patch as well, which we were granted access to if we look back, but we did not use. So ultimately, somewhere in this area, the L would come down here, somewhere ending somewhere right here. And what that does is that just gives you this little design feature, which again, I'm sorry I didn't print enough, but Ed, if you look on that stack of photos right there, that's a kind of an example of flow that Jamie was talking about. There's different sections. You're not necessarily going to get in the way. We definitely won't be paying for an apple-shaped skate park, but you get the idea. So yeah, that's what we would like to do ultimately. But at the same time, we understand that the timeline on possible movement of the ball field up towards the schools is up in the air. But I'd be very happy to stand in front of you in a year or two and say we have money to do this. I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen that quickly.
Well, and
I
we
mean, the
don't.
good thing about doing the concrete structure is there's so many more funders that will participate in this type of, like, it's hard to get grants for wood structures.
Sure.
And most of them required a concrete structure.
Nearly impossible, actually. The big, again, pie in the sky funder, the skate park project, it's right in their language. Concrete, that's all that they're gonna pay for.
Well, and again, with the timeline being said, you know, I don't know your guys' timeline for the kind of reconstruction that's gonna happen there, for all the facilities that might potentially take place, but having a skate park on that list also, I think, boosts motivation, and you know, a lot of people will dedicate money towards youth sports and especially alternative sports when it's not just baseball, basketball, football. They
Right.
like to see that, and they like to put money towards it.
Sure.
So if, potentially we get wrapped into that a little bit, we don't fully expect to be paid for. We're gonna do the work and do the fundraising, but any help is help, so.
I also don't want to step on Rich's toes. But the grants that you were applying for previously for the playground, I keep mixing up the name. I keep saying LMF, is that right?
LWCF,
LWCF.
Land Water Conservation Fund.
Yeah, so down in southern Maine, I can't remember what town, but they were a recipient of a lot of money from those grants that Rich applied for. That included looking at a space like this and making it a multi-use facility with a skate park, a playground, I think multiple pickleball courts, a walking path, et cetera. So, there's grant dollars out there, and I really see the possibility for collaboration, even if the ball field exists. Having the playground, a skate park, ball field, maybe opening us up to some opportunities there as well, to maybe even not only get a skate park, but maybe get a bathroom up there. At this point, I think we need a location to pitch and not to pitch, but to approach these builders through the RFP process and to get the ball rolling on their work. I hate to say this, but if it takes us a number of years to fundraise and it needs to be moved, I don't know if that's an act of Congress, but ultimately, I've seen that happen in towns as well. Things are not necessarily put where they were originally intended to be put.
Can those batting cages be moved, does anybody know? Could you move them to the other side of?
Well, I think with the right configuration, they could go where the pitchers warm up.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, could the swings be moved as part of a new playground to make that?
My
Probably
question
they,
to Rich is, the playground that you're looking at, Rich, that we set aside ARPA money for and that kind of stuff, is it exactly configured the way that one is? Or
it's smaller,
That's an
correct?
interesting
isn't it
question.
smaller?
Yes, it's smaller, so you've got, I should make this bigger this way, we don't need to look at everything else. So there's the footprint of what's there, and then there's a apparatus here, and then the swings right there. So as we talk, and we can't get the committee wants to have more decks being able to get to each of the apparatus. It's actually gonna make it bigger by going that route. So what we designed was an ADA accessible, but it didn't have ramps to everything to shorten. But members on the committee are adamant that we add the ramps, so I'm not sure where we're at with Ian's playground at this point. It may be, something's gonna have to happen, something's gonna have to give. We've added some other structures for ADA that kids can get on from ground level as well. So we'll get to that point, and then as we talk about the senior fitness, I had that meeting with them on Monday about that grant. It was bigger to be onto that parcel as well, so it's potential. The big thing is gonna be is how are we going to access this? So when we get play chips get dumped there. So we'd have to come up with a new plan, redo the entire fencing and have, not the entire fencing, but have gates moved and worked on. This is now ADA access. This has to, handicap parking. So there has to be a path that comes to the entrance so that folks in wheelchairs can get there. So the plan is to create a walkway down from those two parking spots into that large gate that's, the Councilor Bishop had mentioned at one point was recently locked. So that's there. But other than that, no, the batting cage here, I think what someone's asking is, could it be moved over here? I would just say, make sure to talk to the RSU about that because they maintain the facilities and mowing and whatnot. We, waterfront staff handles the rubbish, and that's pretty much all that we handle up there. The RSU handles the rest, so they have a maintenance shed right here, and then it's 1 or 2 bleachers. I can't remember. It's 1 or 2 bleachers, and that's it right
How
there.
often do we do the wood chip replacement?
Well, I should have done it this year, but I held off anticipating that we might have the playground done and was gonna include that in the cost of the project, but it has to be done this year. Cause from MMA, we're supposed to create a drop zone not to exceed, but there's so many missing apparatus now that will be pulled out in the spring, just because of safety now. It seems foolish to add them, but if we wait, like what happened the last time between Tim Emery and then realizing that it hadn't been done in 8 years, it's a lot more to swallow. It's a bigger price tag.
Derek,
Yeah.
would you mind pointing out a little more clearly what you're
There
talking,
you
where you're,
Yeah,
this L that
Yeah.
you're talking about, what,
yeah.
From start to finish.
start
Right.
from the
So-
beginning of where you
Yeah.
wanna see the park
So
down to where the L.
Rich made a really good point. So I'm glad that we did not use the the grass piece that we were granted. So ultimately, I would say that with that being the case, that we need to worry about entrances and exits ADA. If that's working, cool. At minimum, the existing line here of pavement. And you can faintly see where there's some painted lines here. That's kind of just what we went with for the border of the skate park. And we'd want to come down and go over to somewhere in this neck of the woods using this fence line to create an L. But by no means do we have to, assume that the fence is going to stay there, that the playground, can't still be over in this area. There's a lot of amazing landscape architects working with skate park builders and even skate park builders themselves that are often, working into their design, like a walking path in between, good separation, sometimes even eliminating fences, beautifying, putting, pollinator gardens in between. I see room for collaboration on this. I think it's necessary. But yeah, so again, this would be amazing if we could come up to here, but ultimately the L is gonna look like this.
What if you came all the way to Elm Street on the lower side?
Then
Does that work?
That's what I wanted to bring up is, as you come over this way, what you would do is
That's your slope, isn't it?
you would stop once elevation starts to go down, and then your drainage would actually start from that point and connect down to Elm Street and run to your local water drain.
Right.
And that would just make sense.
The only piece that I would mention is that, we've kind of, I don't want to call it tree scarcity, but you got some great trees there. So, I would hesitate going all the way down,
You could function around them too,
function around them, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
without having to cut them.
Again,
It's space.
yeah,
It's shade.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I feel like, we could make a decision at council on location and you guys could like figure out the tree situation, whether to
Right.
use that space if it were
Exactly.
granted or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, get some input on
That's
it.
where you put some benches and.
Well, a design is a process, not an event.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so you get some preliminaries and then
Then maybe
sort of layer them onto this map to see what it looks like and then make a decision on whether that's something that's actually doable or not.
I
I
wonder
would
if some of
think.
these skate park grants could cover the ADA concrete walkway, because it's sort of in the same location.
It wouldn't surprise me,
As
if it's
sort of an
wrapped into
access?
the project, if it's part of the park, I would assume that a walkway would be,
Interesting. Yeah.
part of it. I could be completely wrong, but I can't imagine that not being a part of the funding.
That'd be the most simplistic forming that they would do in that sense. So,
Right.
you know.
And then we can have a conversation with the RSU about the batting cages in the meantime.
Yeah.
Do you, I guess you guys need to discuss, but, I don't feel like I'm playing a card game right now, so I can put it all on the table. We we just wanna move forward with the process, and I think that flexibility is gonna be key, and I think, can't speak on behalf of everyone in the committee, but I think we're all understanding that, you know, there's some movement up there, and you know, as long as we're promised a spot, I think that's a good enough direction, because, you know, the park builders will do geotech reports, soil tests, et cetera. And you know, they'll look at that whole area, not just our envisioned spot. So I would imagine that through this process, there may be some tweaks that need to be made, and like you said, it's a process, and it's a process that the park builders that we're talking to hold community meetings that they market to the community abroad, and that would include the town, I would hope, to show up and sit beside some teenagers who are gonna draw out their dreams, and then we'll crush them with reality.
So tonight's about location, do we have?
I mean, I don't know, we don't have any other location, I don't think, I mean, this is where I would envision it.
That's the location, just
Where exactly?
Location
Size
and
and
the
scope
location.
is what we're talking right now.
Yeah.
I mean, size and scope, you know, in order to accommodate the other uses that are there in a
Mhm.
reasonable way.
Mhm. Yeah.
As well, I think that's why I said it's a process. If you have an idea that's a footprint of X or Y, it might not be X, but it might be X minus
Mhm.
10%.
Yeah.
You know, in order to,
But we need to let them know, we can't tonight, but
Right,
they need to know if they can use that L, cause that's,
right, do we have a motion to bring it to council to see?
Motion to bring it to council.
We can use the whole proposed
I
footprint?
think we should talk to
To the
RSU
RSU
first.
Sure,
Okay.
I can live with that.
Which I don't mind reaching out to Josh Tripp and probably Josh Jackson and whoever else they feel, if you want me
Anthony
to.
McGuire, sure.
Okay, and so we'll get that on the agenda as soon as we have more information.
We can invite him to a next meeting and
I'd like to talk to them and have them meet me on site, cause I'm better with,
so you could have it on your February 13th agenda for
council.
council's consideration with all this information that we need to get ahead of time.
I would think I could set something up and meet with them well before February 13th, right?
We'd love to be part of that if welcomed, just to better explain our vision, and yeah, just really want to express, you know, we're definitely not looking to encroach by any means.
No, I just would wanna meet with them to see,
Yeah,
my brain is, everything's focused over here.
right.
Magic,
Look what you did.
magic.
Can you get us some money with that fund?
And again, with that being said, you know, in order to even approach these builders,
Mhm.
what the first thing they ask is where you're gonna be and the footprint that you have.
I wanna ask you, are there any deadlines on your end for fundraising? Does this timeline, I mean, it's the timeline we have, so I guess that's it.
I might have to call a certain foundation, a certain community foundation, and make sure. I believe the grant that one of the grants has like a
It's
no
general.
timeline, it was
No
general.
timeline.
And then the other grant was definitely its own kind of unique general. There's no real time limitation, other than that we've just been, I think in April, sitting on this $20,000 for a year, and we just wanna see our promise through at this point.
Just checking that you didn't have sort
Right.
of any other proposals waiting on a determined spot, so.
Just like any grant though, sooner the better,
Right.
Yeah.
cause it's gonna
And,
dwindle.
and again, to involve you guys in the bidding process and all of that, same thing, you know, that's the first thing they're gonna ask you, is what's your full scope of things.
Awesome, so we'll get some more information, we'll put it on the next agenda,
The council's February 13th
13th
agenda.
agenda.
Okay.
Council Rankin is gonna do the outreach to the RSU.
Okay.
And see where that stands, and
Great.
then we'll have a better idea of what kind of picture, what
Right.
kind of shape
Right.
it would have at that location.
And I don't know if we need a motion or anything for this, but you know, I would just say that throughout this process, you know, we keep we've continued to stand here and mention possible second locations. And I think we've looked through tax maps and done drive-bys and walked different areas in town for possibilities, and we're just coming up with blanks at this point. So if this isn't gonna work, you know, if you are the ones that would decide another location, throw any thoughts and ideas at us. We're here, you know how to contact us. Yeah, we'd
Really
love
hoping
to.
this location works because
Yeah.
we've
Right.
tried it out with the crowd, with
Right.
the events, we've tried the hard
Exactly.
parts for public safety's test anyway, I
Yeah.
think.
And I see that spot getting better and better and better.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
all those in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Not so easy,